Welcome to Techstination. Joining us is Lee King, the CEO and founder of a company called Hydro Wind Energy. Thank you for joining us, Lee.
Thank you for having me.
Really interesting company. You've got a device coming to market called Quench Sea. You've done some crowdfunding for this. Give us an overview of what it is.
It's a small handheld, low-cost desalination device that converts seawater into fresh water instantly. It's probably the first time a low-cost device has been developed to do such a thing. Very, very unique. It was developed initially for the humanitarian market, but there's a market for it in terms of sailors, campers, travelers, and in the US, we call them survivalists, preppers. So that's also a big market for us. We've been on Indiegogo now just for over 6 weeks. So it's the Life campaign. We've raised $250,000. And now we're on in-demand, and now we're moving towards finalizing the product development and manufacturing it and getting it delivered to people by February 2021.
Really interesting. And this is extremely portable as well. For those of you who are watching this interview, maybe you can show us just what the size is here.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. So you can actually, it's almost the size of imagine an iron, the size of a conventional iron. And yeah, it's meant to be portable, lightweight, compact, and it will produce roughly, we're aiming above 3 liters per hour. The thing with desalinating seawater, it's very energy intensive. So this is a manual device that has a lever attached to it that you take out, and then you just pump it. You stand on it and you're pumping it like that. So it sucks seawater in, and then it gives you fresh water. And there's something called the reject brine, which is a very salty water that's ejected.
How did this come about, Lee?
Well, our company, Hydro Wind Energy, we're actually developing renewable energy systems for a kite-based energy system offshore to generate electricity and store it. But the same system can also be used for water desalination. Early last year, our CTO was thinking about, is there a solution for the world's water crisis at small scale? Because one of the biggest challenges at the moment is you've got water everywhere, but you can't drink it. Is there a device out there, or can someone produce a device that's handheld, that's low cost, to have an impact on the world's water crisis, bearing in mind that it's over about 2.2 billion people around the world don't have access to clean water. And that's how it started. And what we've ultimately done is there's only 2 ways you can desalinate seawater into fresh water. One is called thermal, which is simply heating up seawater and collecting the condensed water and then remineralizing it. And the other is called reverse osmosis, which are, imagine, filters that requires high-pressured seawater to turn into fresh water. And that's already being used at large scale. It's actually developed a technology that's currently, there's probably several hundred plants around the world that use that technology. It's a complicated process. But we said, is it possible to miniaturize that at low cost? Very important that it's at low cost. And that's how the story started. And, we developed the filters with some partners. And then the important thing is that we required you need to have a certain amount of pressure to desalinate seawater. And it's 55 bars, which is equivalent to about 5,500 kilopascals. So whatever system you build, you need to build up that pressure in order to desalinate seawater into freshwater. And we just used the standard hydraulic system, just basic physics to see if we can achieve that. And, from maybe the 2nd or 3rd try, we succeeded in actually, with a hand. I mean, even think of, for example, one of the things that we did first was we used a bottle jack. So that was an adapted bottle jack, one of our first prototypes. And that goes up to about 3,000 PSI. And all we needed is 800 PSI. So it worked. And then we started working on the pre-filtration system, because one of the things with reverse osmosis membranes, it uses what they call reverse osmosis, which is used in nature. and that's how plants, you know, drink water, or even. Yeah, that was it.
When you say affordable,
Mhm.
what does that mean? How affordable is this?
Well, you know, we've launched it as a pre-launch on Indiegogo. We launched it between $60 to $80, depending on the perks. And this is also there's an attached. You know, for every one that's bought, we donate one. The humanitarian aspect is very, very important. But our ideas is really, this is really about economies of scale. So, you know, if once we reach 100, 200,000 units, then really the costs of producing Quench Sea are going to go drastically down. So it'd be very, very affordable, because it's really targeting. Even $80 or $60 is still very expensive for the humanitarian sector. We really want to bring it down, you know, to half of that and even more. But this is a device that, you know, you can use it again and again, and all you need to do is change the filter, which is the reverse osmosis filter, once it stops working.
How often do you have to change the filter, and how expensive is that?
That's a good question. At the moment, we're estimating it's going to be around $10 to change the filters. We've tested the filters up to 18,000 liters.
Wow.
So yeah, aggressively tested it. But you know, the life of the membrane really depends on several factors, which is the quality of the seawater, the feed seawater, the temperature, the pressure gradients that's being used. Like if you constantly pump it, it's good. If you pump it and then stop, it kind of starts to destroy the you know, like stop, start, stop, start, when you need to continuously do it. So it affects the performance of the membrane. But we're confident that you know, because seawater is generally not dirty water, but it should last over 500 liters a minimum.
That's amazing. Now, in addition to removing the salt, is it purifying the water? Can you just drink it right from the unit?
Yeah, that's the idea. Is it literally it purifies the water first, then it goes through reverse osmosis, which reverse osmosis really removes the salts. So it actually removes bacteria, viruses, microplastics, because it's nanotechnology. And the filters take most of the impurities out first, and then the reverse osmosis takes out the salts, which is the most energy intensive process. But this is meant really specifically for seawater, because that's the biggest challenge. If you can do a low cost one for seawater, it's much easier to do one for just simply dirty water. And there are
Eh,
other options on the market in terms of, you know, for dirty water.
Sure, hikers and such, you use those all
Yeah,
the time.
life for, yeah,
So, tell me, in terms of the market for this,
yeah,
it would seem to me that it's a no-brainer for anybody who owns a boat, first of all,
yeah,
and travels on salt water. You know, it's almost a must, right?
yes.
Wouldn't you think?
Yes, no, definitely. I mean, it really solves a very big pain point for sailors. I mean, they do appreciate that, you know, a device like this is a lifesaver. I mean, if and they already have reverse osmosis systems, but they're very expensive on board. I think there's a slightly bigger handheld one that's for about $2,200. So it's still, and most sailors don't really use that. What they do have is one that's power, it requires power, so it requires electricity. So this is something that, you know, in case of an emergency, you've got a device there that turns seawater into fresh water instantly. You can drink it there and then. So it is a game changer. But you have also campers, hikers. That's a market as well. You know, it's a pain point, you know, to rather than carrying a lot of water. If you're next to the coast, this is a device that can also, next to seawater, turn seawater into fresh water instantly.
You're doing all these things with the water, purifying it, removing the salt. How does it taste?
Well, we've very specifically, it's very palatable, very pleasant. We've got in the pre-filtration system, we've got activated carbon, which is already used in conventional desalination plants to make water taste better or to remove any odors. But generally, seawater itself is quite clean. It's not really dirty water. So, but yeah, but it tastes, you know, like water. That you know, we've done taste tests. We've got a video on Indiegogo to show it. But you know, water doesn't really have. If you think of water, it's one of those things that doesn't really have a very specific taste. A very kind of bland, very, you know, if it's got something added to it, that's when you realize that there's something in it. There's too much iron or something like that. But yeah, but it tastes okay. I mean, it's meant for drinking.
Terrific. Now, tell me where you're going from here. You said you're working with different humanitarian organizations and been donating one for every one that's purchased. So you're really able to manufacture these at a very low cost then.
Yes, that is the idea. Well, we've already got a couple of humanitarian organizations because we're not a humanitarian organization, but what we want to do is really impact on the ground people that need water. And this is, this could be I'm just hearing on the news, I think, is it Miami or Florida, they're being hit by a hurricane.
Right, the
So this could
Carolinas
also,
now, I
yeah,
think it, right.
yeah. So this is also a device that can be as an emergency use when hurricanes hit. I mean, we've got, people were texting us from Hawaii, from all over the place, where islands, even in Indonesia, where they have issues with water when it's hurricane season. So this solves, this is something that empowers someone to just produce their own fresh water from seawater, which has never really been done before. Now, our vision really, we're aiming to donate 100 million units by 2027, and we want to impact over 1 billion people by 2027. We're not saying solely by ourselves, but this is with our partners. We're already backed by Techstars, one of the largest VC/accelerators in the world. We've got a few other partners as well in terms of investments. So yeah, we're just going to really grow it from here, because our vision is to solve the world's water crisis at large scale, and that's what hydro wind energy is doing with the kite systems offshore, but also at small scale, because this is not going to solve everything. This is going to just empower people to produce their own water.
For people who want to get information about this and perhaps to purchase, where can they go now?
Well, Indiegogo, we've gone on to something called In Demand. So it's like an e-commerce. So that's still live. And that's, if you just put Quench Sea, Google it, it'll automatically come up. But if you want, you can also go to our website, quenchsea.world.
Quench, it's QUENCHSEA.world.
Correct, yeah.
For more information. And it's selling for how much there now?
At the moment, if I recall, because we increased the pricing a little bit, I think it's about $70 now, plus shipping.
Terrific. And again, it will arrive this coming February is when you expect to start shipping, correct?
Yeah, before February, our ideal, we put contingency plans in place, but, with everything that's going on around the world, especially with COVID, and it's affecting logistics and manufacturing. But we're hoping, yeah, that we should, way before then, we should have delivered.
So you're hoping, despite the pandemic, to be able to get this out in February.
Yeah.
That's had a pretty tough impact on getting these manufactured.
No, at the moment, we've built, like I said, risk management strategy in place to ensure, that we get things done. And now things are falling in place because we've got several manufacturing facilities where we can potentially manufacture these. So yeah, we're already kind of moving. We've already started now in terms of finalizing the product development and preparing, the molds. So we should have something before the end of this month, if not early September by the latest, like a physical prototype that works. The membranes, we're working with our partners now to finalize also the size of the membrane and the pre-filtration system, because they're the two main components that have to be changed, really. They're the consumables.
Terrific. And I know you're talking about this on forums, on global platforms, and we congratulate you on what you're doing here, Lee. Once again, the website is quenchsea.world. Lee King, thank you for taking the time with us.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you as well.